Watch out, there may be a shape-shifting Zygon behind you, or a meat-eating swarm of Vashan Narada may be chasing after you. And if you're not Doctor Who or his closest kin, you stand no chance against these deadly, sinister, vicious baddies. In today's video, we will introduce you to some of the creepiest and scariest villains of the Doctor Who franchise, which are as menacing and unique as they are entertaining and mysterious. Let's get started. Now, just before we go into the video, we have a small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. It's a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you very much. Now let's begin. The Master. The most deranged nemesis of the Doctor is undoubtedly the Master. Like Doctor Who, the Master too is a renegade Time Lord belonging to the planet Gallifrey, but instead of being the protector of the cosmos like the Doctor, the Master is a lover of chaos. In fact, Doctor Who and the Master were buddies at the Time Lord Academy, but Doctor Who's sense of justice and protection was contrasted by the Master's greed for power and control. The Master gets various incarnations throughout the show, each with their own distinct personalities, but the same motivation of chaos and domination within. The Master's biggest weapon is his intelligence, and through his cunning, he's known to commit heinous acts of cruelty, also often attempting to kill his childhood friend, the Doctor. However, he shares a complicated rapport with the Doctor, owing to their shared past. Sometimes, he's seen to regard Doctor Who as a worthy opponent, while at times, there's jealousy and resentment that take over his better villainous judgment. The Master lives to see the obliteration of the human race, simply because the Doctor is fond of humans, and attempts to do so through sneaky plans with alien invaders, and by devising political uproars and tampering with advanced technologies. The Master fled his home planet of Gallifrey on the time-travelling machine TARDIS in order to fully embrace his dark persona, following which he clashed with the third reincarnation of the Doctor. Having exhausted his regeneration limits, the Master then was trapped in a living corpse, which prompted him to steal the bodies of many, such as of the humanoid Trakonite scientist Tremas and the human Bruce Gerhardt. The Master also managed to survive by gaining regenerations through the Sun's DNA separating science, and also by uploading his life essence into a deathworm morphant. In the 2023 storyline, the Master was trapped in a golden tooth by the Toymaker after losing a game to him. Daleks. The other main antagonist of the Doctor Who franchise would be the Daleks, an alien species from the planet Skaro and a recurring enemy of the Doctor. These squid-like organisms with robotic armor were created by the villainous Davos as an army that would enable him to reign supreme over the universe. While they have the appearance of brainless robots, the Daleks are actually cunning, mutated monsters inside. Naturally, Doctor Who posed a threat to the Daleks, who in turn viewed him as their mortal enemy. The Daleks operated with their war cry, "Exterminate," and were obsessed with their racial purity. A true blue Dalek viewed any other race as inferior and thus worthy of extermination, a belief which led to them to make thousands of species go extinct and destroy countless worlds. The Daleks were so threatening that their rise to power was feared even by the omnipresent Time Lords, so much so that the Time Lords restored the Master into a full-bodied form so that he could prevent a Dalek invasion. As fate would have it, the Time Lords and the Daleks clashed in the last great Time War, which turned all of time-space continuum into a battlefield and pushed the Time Lords to the brink of extinction. The Daleks, originating from the last surviving member of their planet, spawned an entire species which proved almost impossible to destroy, recovering time and time again no matter the threat. These alien species were masters of time travel, experts of alien sciences and tech geniuses. They could create super weapons such as reality bombs, which could obliterate reality itself. The only name in the big wide universe that the Daleks are known to fear is that of the Doctor. Davos. This brings us to Davos, the scarred and deformed scientist from the planet Skaro who created the Daleks. Davos is one of the three overreaching villains of Doctor Who, returning time and time again despite being killed, prompting many to theorize that he might be immortal, a claim that Davos loves to embrace. Despite hailing from a lineage of soldiers, Davos focused on eccentric scientific creations, teaching living things to chant his name. During the 1,000-Year War, Davos was crippled, following which he created a single cybernetic eye placed on his forehead and a life support chair that armors his lower body. However, Davos realized that people of his planet are getting mutilated by the biological and nuclear weapons of the 1,000-Year War. Thus, he created the Daleks, an evolutionary upgrade of living beings. But he was soon unable to control his own creations, to the point that he was shot by a Dalek and placed in suspended animation in the underground realms of Skaro. While Davos was conceptualizing the Daleks, getting a whiff of his plans, the Time Lords sent the Doctor to Skaro to prevent the mad scientist from creating the Dalek menace. In the eventual Time War, Davos led the Daleks against the Time Lords and apparently perished in the first year of the battle when his command craft was destroyed by the ominous Nightmare Child, despite the Doctor's attempts to save him. However, Davos was saved by a different cult of Scarrow, who kept him as a hostage. During his captivity, the disillusioned Davos generated a new empire of Daleks from his own flesh and instructed them to steal 27 planets, Earth included, and hide them in the Medusa Cascade. Midnight. One of the most challenging foes of the Doctor was Midnight, whose credibility as a villain lies in the fact that the Doctor was completely unaware of this entity, despite his encyclopedic knowledge. This sinister entity lived on the toxic, airless planet Midnight, which was perpetually shrouded in the sun's X-tonics radiation and had diamond-based geology. The creature never really revealed its true shape, except appearing in the form of blink and miss shadows, and that's because it could possess humans and mimic their actions to the point of perfection. The 10th Doctor encountered this ominous thing during a tour of the Sapphire Waterfall on the planet Midnight, when it tore off the tourist craft's cockpit and possessed the form of the blabbering traveller Sky Silvestri. While remaining inside of Sky, this unseen assailant replicated every passenger's words to perfection, including reciting the square root of pi to 30 decimal places, thus creating an atmosphere of paranoia in the passenger craft. Remaining within Sky's psyche, this malevolent entity managed to paralyze the Doctor's speech by stealing his voice and compelled him to utter what the entity wanted to convey. By this, Midnight managed to portray that the Doctor had been possessed and thus needs to be thrown out of the vehicle. But when it mistakenly uttered signature phrases of the Doctor, the other passengers were alarmed, prompting the tour guide, aka the hostess, to drag the possessed guy into the toxic radiation, thus freeing the Doctor from Midnight's grip. Despite the apparent disappearance, it wasn't sure if Midnight was killed or continues to haunt that planet. Following the Doctor's near-death encounter with Midnight, all trips to the planet were thus abandoned once more, and all guided tours were cancelled. The Cybermen. Imagine getting your emotions and personality deleted. A scary thought, right? That's what the Cybermen of the Doctor Who franchise did. The Cybermen are a race of cybernetically augmented humans who first originated on Earth's twin planet Mondas as humans who upgraded themselves into cyborgs to survive in a hostile environment. However, in the parallel universe of Pete's world, the Cybermen were created by a mad scientist by fusing human brains of abducted people with chemicals. Through their one and only goal of converting other sentient being into cyborgs, the species came to be born on several other time and spaces, including the Earth monitored by Doctor Who. Ironically, Cybermen hated emotions and operated on pure logic, but they were the result of humanity's primal emotion, the fear of extinction. Due to this existence on parallel universes, the Cybermen differed in form and rank, but all retained the common motive of taking over their respective universes, with some attempting to attack the multiverse. Owing to their inability to reproduce, the Cybermen were always on the hunt for compatible sentient beings who can be converted into cyborg beings devoid of emotions or life. Once humans were captured, the Cybermen forcefully re-engineered their mental and physical forms through a painful process in order to populate their ranks. Overused in the Doctor Who franchise, the Cybermen created several cyber empires and engaged in several cyber wars, but always managed to re-emerge, surviving till the end of the universe. All Cybermen species come with a distinguished chest unit, which is the key to their survival. They've been known to wield strange but powerful technologically advanced weapons across their various incarnations and forms. One variation could generate electricity arcs from their hands to attack, while another Cyberman type possessed cannons that could operate in the vacuum of space. They also used incapacitating virus Neurotrope X as a biological weapon against humans. Weeping Angels. The Weeping Angels are one of the scariest beings of the Doctor Who universe. They are an extremely powerful species of humanoids who instantly take the appearance of winged statues when looked at, and are instantly freed from their inanimate forms when looked away from. What's worse is that they dart at incredibly fast speeds when not being observed. In a blink, the Weeping Angels can start breathing down your neck, despite being stationed afar literally a second ago. Their weeping appearance comes from the fact they must conceal their faces from each other of their own kind in order to prevent petrifying one another for eternity. When it comes to humans, the Weeping Angels deliver a relatively kind end by dropping the victims to a distant past with a single touch and letting them live out their lives in a different timeline. The murderous angels then feed on the time energy of the victims that is left behind in the original timeline. However, when this time energy seems insufficient, the Weeping Angels also resort to killing humans by snapping their necks for more energy. These villainous angels' ability to send people through time is weakened when they are lacking energy supplies, and an hour's worth of time energy is sufficient to restore their deadly powers. The weeping angels are also infamous for infecting the minds of their victims by giving them hallucinations about petrified limbs and a countdown to death. These entities can take the form through an image or a video or even from the memories of a person, thus corrupting the person's mind. It's said the weeping angels remain in hiding on every planet, and on Earth any statue could be one in disguise. Interestingly, when a weeping angel preyed on a Time Lord, using the time energy of the future generation, that angel would be able to create more versions of themselves. The Silence. Next up we have the Silence, or singularly known as the Silent, a sect of alien humanoids genetically engineered by the Space Church, whose biggest power is that they are memory-proof. The Silence compelled people to make confessions but made them forget they did so. Thus, the existence of the Silence is actually a secret, as anyone who encounters them immediately forgets about them after looking away. But the suggestions made by these aliens are retained in the head, thus making them scary villains that tamper with your psyche. The creepiest element of the Silence is that they are impossible to remember, because a Silent would wipe one's memory soon after an encounter. The Silents were obsessed with thwarting a prophecy about Doctor Who coming true, and in order to do that, they planned to destroy his TARDIS and even raise a child so that she can grow up to kill the Doctor. Their next plan was to integrate into Earth's history and prevent Doctor Who from reaching their planet Trenzalore, because in that true timeline after the Doctor's re-emergence as the Time Lord, Trenzalore would be under siege for several centuries. The Silents manipulated the actions of others by planting commands in their heads through post-hypnotic suggestions, which stayed with them long after memory of meeting the Silents was gone. The Silents also had humans working for them, who wore eye devices to remember them. In order to recall meeting the Silents, Doctor Who used nano recorders to keep proof of his encounters with these creatures. The Doctor came up with an ingenious plan to beat the Silents by broadcasting footage of a captive Silent who was viewed by 500,000 humans. Unable to wipe all their memories, the Silents left the planet. In addition to their memory-wiping powers, the Silents could also absorb electricity and channel that as attacks from their hands. On Earth, the Silents donned black suits much like the Men in Black. The Silents, who have mouthless, bulbous heads with eyes placed in deep sockets, were also inspired by Edvard Munch's expressionist painting, The Scream. Vashan Narada. Another unique villainous species are the Vashan Narada, which the Doctor described as the piranhas of the air. These are swarms of carnivorous microscopic beings that eat the flesh of the victim, stripping the creature down to mere bones. The Vashan Naradas are even capable of tearing open the stone bodies of silicon-based organisms. Found on most planets, the Vashan Naradas literally translate to the shadows that melt the flesh. The Doctor theorized that these tiny predators can be detected as the specks of dust in the sunlight, but these are small swarms and not as threatening. The Vashan Naradas were also intelligent beings, as swarms of these could take over augmented spacesuits and communicate with the Doctor through the suit's neural commands. Coordinating these movements, the Vashan Naradas made the spacesuits walk, giving it the appearance of a zombie because of the skeletal corpse inside and the slow, otherworldly movements. The Vashan Narada are creatures of the dark and devour anyone and anything that steps out of the light. Swarms of these microscopic menaces would blend into the shadows of the victims and get close to them, which means if someone saw an extra shadow of them being cast, then a painful death is already upon them. The Doctor was able to detect a Vashan Narada swarm by using his sonic screwdriver, which could differentiate between a real shadow and a false one. The deadliest Vashan Narada encounter was when the Doctor ventured into the book planet called the Library. The Doctor asked the Vashan Narada in the library to back down so that the trapped people could be freed from the planet, prompting the creatures to look him up in the library books and then retreat for the day. These meat eaters, by casting shadows, even caused an eclipse on a planet that didn't have a moon. The Family of Blood. Now let's talk about an entire family of villains called the Family of Blood. These are gaseous, green, predatory beings who wanted to kill the 10th Doctor so that they could take his near immortality. These spirit form villains had a lifespan of just 3 months, and hence were always on the lookout for hosts with a longer longevity. Once they latched onto a human host and controlled their bodies, these creatures turned into a family of 4, with a father, mother, a son and daughter, who strangely addressed each other with their relations. These gaseous gaseous beings tapped into the memories of the hosts to impersonate the victims perfectly in real life. The family of blood travelled in a spacecraft which safely guarded their gaseous forms without a host. This craft was equipped with a gamut of equipment, including a stolen vortex manipulator which enabled the family to time travel. For weapons, the family wielded energy guns that blasted out green energy powerful enough to disintegrate human flesh. Apparently, the guns contained a living creature that spat the energy when pierced by the gun's trigger. The family of blood also commanded an army of scarecrow-like soldiers who could be reanimated even after being killed. The family communicated with one another telepathically and hunted down the Doctor with this incredible sense of smell. Evading this predatory family, the Doctor transformed into a human and became a school teacher in England, but was nonetheless tracked down by the Four. The chase ended with each member of the family of blood getting different punishments from the Doctor, an outcome that the merciful Doctor was trying to avoid. The father was tossed into an underground chamber tied with unbreakable chains, while the mother was thrown into a collapsing galaxy. The daughter was trapped in a mirror existence, while the son was suspended in time as a scarecrow. The Headless Monks. One can only trust the Doctor Who franchise to come up with headless enemies. The Order of the Headless, comprising of the Headless Monks, was one such example. These religious humanoids believed in following their heart and not their minds to such an extent that they got themselves beheaded and stored the severed heads in boxes. However, only the wealthy and high-ranking members were assigned separate cases, and while the heads of others were left on shelves to rot, which moved around attacking one another. In both cases, the heads retained their memories. However, the decaying skulls would attempt to chomp on everything from rats to humans that came into their vicinity. Without heads, the monks could not feel fear or experience surprise, but they could chant as they did before launching certain attacks, which may have been a unique ability given their headless nature. As per the order, the monks would be punished by death if they lowered their hoods to reveal their headless appearance. These headless monks could fire energy blasts from their hands and also channel that energy into swords that they wielded. Interestingly, anyone from a separate species can join the Order of the Headless through decapitation, which means the villainous sect was always expanding. When the Headless Monks attempted to take down the Doctor, he turned the tables on them by posing as a Headless Monk himself. Launching a surprise attack, the Doctor scored an apparent win over the Order of the Headless. However, the Headless Monks were not registered as living beings because of their beheaded state and kept their true numbers concealed. Outnumbered by them, the Doctor's allies were killed in a massacre. The Beast. The next baddie is the OG devil himself, who goes by the title The Beast. This devilish creature claims to be older than the universe itself. The Beast was captured by the Disciples of Light and imprisoned in the deepest, darkest labyrinths on the planet Croptor, which circled around a black hole without being dragged in. The Beast's presence then gradually manifested into the psyche of all sentient beings across the universe, resulting in the creation of devil-like figures in all religions. The Beast could possess the minds of others, be it a hive mind or a single human, through telepathy. Its fire-breathing ability was transferred to the host, with strange markings appearing on the skin of those who it possessed. The Beast could also make its presence known through electronic media and holograms. The Beast's physical incarnation was a grotesque form with crinkled crimson skin and a shrunken corpse-like face. The Doctor encountered this devilish horned creature with fangs and claws during an expedition to Croptor to investigate what prevents the planet from being eaten by that black hole. Seeing an opportunity to escape its millennia-old imprisonment, the Beast possessed the mind of explorers through writings on a notebook. It's discovered that the Disciples of Light intended for the Beast to be killed by someone in the future, and hence they left oxygen supplies inside the Beast's pit. Subsequently, the Doctor managed to destroy the planet's anti-gravity that prevented it from being sucked in by the black hole. As a result, the planet was sent hurling towards the abyss, and the Beast along with it. But the Beast had already transferred its mind into a new host, and claimed that it could never truly be destroyed. Zygoons. Another visually menacing and malicious-natured creature from the Doctor Who universe is the Zygon. These aliens were stout humanoids with wrinkled skin covered in octopus-like suckers. Hailing from the planet Zygor, these creatures spoke in gurgling whispers and could kill people with the poisonous spikes on their arms and their venomous tongue. The Zygon's most deadly trait is to transform members of the other species into their own kind, and at the same time establish a telepathic connection between the freshly converted victim and the Zygon who orchestrated orchestrated their change. Zygons could also mimic their victims by keeping the captured humans in a receptacle and duplicating that person's appearance, actions and voice through a technology called body prints. These body prints needed to be renewed every 2 hours while the victims remained unconscious within the receptacle. Such was their telepathic hold that the Zygons could shapeshift into someone even from the victim's memory. The Zygons heavily relied on their technology, which was partly biological in nature, to carry out the evil deeds, such as control the gigantic creature Scaracin from their home planet. The Zygons cybernetically augmented the Scaracin to suit their needs, resulting in a bone-crushing biological weapon. The Zygons used bioships to traverse around the universe, which could track the life signs of any species and detect a dead one within the vast expanse of the universe. Upon their first introduction, the Zygons intended to take over Earth but were stopped in their tracks by the 4th Doctor. The Zygons appear every now and then to wreak their havoc, and once it took the combined effort of 3 Doctors to tackle the Zygon menace. Marvellous verdict. Alrighty, so that was one scary as hell assortment of villains that we can trust only the Doctor himself to handle. Have we included your favourite Doctor Who villain on the list? Don't hesitate to share your thoughts in the comments down below if you missed out on anyone. And if you like this video, please tell us which other franchise villains you'd like us to explore. Till then, stay safe from the Headless Monks and the Weeping Angels, and watch this space for more marvellous content. And if you liked our content, of course, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't done so already. Otherwise, have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.